Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Big Idea. I'm your host, Dr. Jeffrey Hanna, here with Clear Chiropractic. And what we're going to be talking about here is the big idea. What is the big idea? It's how a little bone at the base where your head meets your spine can have a very big impact in terms of your health, your well-being, in ways that you would never think is actually associated with your neck and can help improve and change the quality of your life. And what we're going to be talking about in this video here is a sense of, for lack of a better term, anxiety. And anxiety can come in a lot of different forms here. And what I'm referring to in particular is that internal sense of angst, agitation, where your heart, there's nothing wrong with your heart, but where things just feel a little bit off, funny. And you can have all of the tests, but nobody knows exactly what's going on. You love your life, you have wonderful relationships, and yet you still feel like something is a little bit off. In other words, your body is playing a trick on your brain. And what we're going to talk about in this particular video then is how it is that a misalignment in the upper part of your neck can actually be the potential source of what's going on. Let's get into it. As always, a bit of an overview first. We go through life and we have physical injuries, slips, falls, trips, car accidents, little minor things where there's no broken bones and not necessarily any bleeding, and we walk away presuming that we're just fine. The problem is that is not always the case. See, we're born 100% perfect based on our anatomy or genetics and all that. And what happens is we have these little things that are slowly taking away from our 100%. And over a period of time then, we start to develop symptoms and problems in our body that we never relate back to those kinds of injuries. We presume it's because we're just a little stressed, we've got a little too much stuff going on, we're getting older, there's nothing that we can do about it, it's just our lot in life, without realizing that it's actually the effects of those older injuries there. So what we're looking at then in particular, because of the emphasis on the upper part of the neck, your spine is designed to move. It's a series of interlocking chains. But whether you have an injury to your head, fall on your shoulder, fall on your tailbone, whatever it is, it produces a ripple effect, and it has the tendency to go to the point of least resistance, which is going to be the upper part of the neck right here. And because these particular vertebrae are designed to move, they provide 50% of all the movement of your head and your neck, and they are the weak spot. What they can do when they misalign, when they lock out of their normal position, again, not broken, not dislocated, and not necessarily bleeding either, but they're not moving properly, then what they do is they're slowly producing tension on your neurology, affecting blood flow to your brain, which in turn affects blood flow down to the rest of your body. And over a period of time, we can start then to develop what we call different kinds of conditions, different diseases, different effects, without realizing it's potentially coming from right up here. So what we do in our particular practice, it's a unique method which is known as the Blair technique, upper cervical specific. And it's a variety of chiropractic without twisting, without cracking, no joint manipulation, where we take a personalized approach. Everybody's joints are different on the outside and the inside. And so when we know exactly what's going on, we can release things so that your body is able to move, repair, heal the way that it's designed without the need of drugs, surgery in many instances. And when that happens, guess what? It means that your body's able to heal from those layers of damage. And you then are able to start going back up towards your 100% where your body is designed to be. That's the big idea. That's the approach. And so what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you how it is that an undiagnosed problem in the upper part of your neck can actually, again, be one of the reasons why a person can be feeling internal angst when otherwise there really shouldn't be a reason for that. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so there's a very basic principle that I want to share with you first. Garbage in, garbage out. Very important when it comes to our overall sense of health and well-being. We have people who I see every single day who come to me and they say, okay, Dr. Hanna, Jeff, I want to be healthy, but my diet is crappy. And I don't exercise, and I stay up all night, and I hate my job. You get the idea. Well, what do you think is going to happen in that instance? I can give a person the best adjustment that I've given in the history of my career, but that doesn't mean that they're going to become healthy. So, garbage in, garbage out. If you're doing all the wrong things in life, what do you think is going to happen? You're not going to be well. So this is a message to the people out there who are doing the best you can. I'm not asking you to be a champion, but you're doing the best that you can. And you're experiencing these things, but you don't know why that would be. Okay, so when we have these kinds of issues that I've previously talked about, so I've got a little model here of the C1 vertebra like this. Your brainstem, which is what we've got illustrated right through here, is illustrated on this particular chart here. So when it misaligns like this, even a couple millimeters, and gets locked in that position, it starts to accumulate damage over a period of time. And it can actually produce tension on the entirety of your brainstem. It can also disrupt blood flow to these centers, the ones that I've illustrated on this particular chart right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to affect the quality of the information and the way that your brainstem is able to process that information. In other words, it produces static and garbled noise that goes up to your brain. And your brain then has to try to make sense of that garbled noise. And so there's two centers in particular that I want to highlight for you. So number one is the purple one that we see located right in the middle right here. That is what is known as the locus coeruleus, a fancy term where it is one of the primary processing centers that receives the information from the nerves and also from your hormone levels about your fight, flight, freeze reflexes. In other words, the sympathetic division of your nervous system that's necessary for your go, for your energy, for when there is crisis that propels you into action, whether fight, flight, freeze. Now, I want you to imagine the possibility then here. You've got an issue in the upper part of your neck, and what it's doing is it's producing abnormal signals. And those abnormal signals so happen to travel up to this locus coeruleus, and that brain center is receiving all this information that's saying, danger, mate, danger, danger, danger. And it's going off like an internal alarm system. Garbage in. So what do you think your brain is going to do? It's going to produce the physiological effect as if you are in a moment of crisis. Your heart rate is going to start going up. You can start feeling a few little bits of chills, and you can start to feel in you a sense of agitation, anxiety. But, and this is my point, the origin of it is not because there actually is a crisis. And this is why I oftentimes describe when people experience these kinds of symptoms that it's your body playing a trick on your brain. What you are feeling is 100% real, but the origin of it is not necessarily what you would think. So that's the garbage inside of the equation. Now how about the garbage out? So the garbage out, this is a center of the brain here, showcasing you now in the purple, just that little bit lower, that's called the the ventrolateral nucleus of the medulla. It's a long term right there. What this is involved with then coordinating those sympathetic impulses that go back out to your body. So we had the garbage inside on the one. Now this is the garbage out. Now normally what this cluster of cells is responsible for is coordinating those sympathetic activities in those nerves. And what these particular nerves are is these are the nerves that cause the hair on the back of your neck to stand up or on your hand. They are what control your sweat glands, but they are also what control blood vessel dilation. In which part of your body? All parts of your body. Your heart, your muscles, and your brain. Because if there's a genuine crisis, guess what? You don't need to be worrying about what you were eating for lunch and digesting that. You're like, nope, muscles need the blood right now. We got a crisis on our hands. We need to do something about this heart. You need to kick into action right now. So again, I raise the possibility. If you've got a problem that's producing tension in this area and it is not firing the right way that it should. And now it's sending abnormal signals out to the rest of your body. Guess what? Your body will be exhibiting the symptoms and the physical manifestations, the signs, the symptoms, and the various problems of this sympathetic irregularity, what's sometimes known as a sympathetic dominance. Your body is in this perpetual state of fight, flight, freeze. And oftentimes we say, okay, yeah, this is definitely a problem. So yes, we need to look at the diet. We need to have mindfulness, resting strategies. But if this process is still going on, I'm considering and raising the possibility that where this is coming from, again, is because your body is playing a trick on your brain, that there is a mechanical source of interference that is causing your body to have an abnormal response, as if you would having garbled messages over an intercom on a radio. Your body is simply put doing what your brain is telling it to do, because the information that your brain is receiving is not what it necessarily thinks that it is. So how is it that something like this can happen? Well, as I had already mentioned, is if you've got a problem with that alignment in the upper vertebra right through here, it can be creating tension on the brainstem itself. However, there's another very important structure in your neck that I think is worth mentioning here, because very often it gets overlooked. And what this is the one here, what this diagram here illustrates, is it shows you all of the different wires, the nerves that coordinate that vital life information to all parts of your body. But these are the ones in particular that under the influence of what's happening in the upper part of your neck. And the one that I have showcased in the bright yellow here is what is known as the ascending sympathetic chain. What is this? This is a cluster of cells that travels from basically the base of your neck here, and it travels along the front of the vertebrae in your neck, right in front of the C1, the C2, and the C3 vertebrae in particular. And what this is going to do is this is going to influence all of the blood vessels in your brain. In fact, what I have right here is a little diagram that illustrates just that. These here, schematically, represent all of the various blood vessels that are going to be controlled, coordinated by that sympathetic cervical ganglion. So we have the ones that go to the eyes, the ears, your swallowing muscles, the outside of your head, but also everything that's going on the inside as well. Whether it's the front of your brain, the back of your brain, which is involved with seeing, balance, coordination, but also, and this is the really, really important part, it's all of those vital life centers in that brain stem located right in the middle here as well. Every blood vessel in your brain is influenced by what is happening with those superior or those ascending sympathetic nerves. And very commonly, what we see is a phenomenon that when people have had physical injuries, again, slips, falls, trips, and they don't think anything about it, is that you have the accumulation of the stress that's lowering you down like this. And your brain is not stupid and your body's designed to win. It's going to try to find ways to compensate for that. The problem is after years or even decades worth of accumulating stress, your body hits the point where it says, we can't do this anymore. And that's when we start to experience these signs and symptoms show up, when really we can't figure out, well, nothing new happened. What's actually going on? Now, why is this so terribly important? It's because so many of the injuries that we have as human beings cause our head to come forward like that. It gets locked in that abnormal position. And then we amplify that, of course, by looking at our devices, probably whatever you're watching this on, whether it's your computer, a tablet, your phone, whether we were reading, writing, so many different things are involved with bringing the head forward like that. And what that has the effect, if I'm going to show you on a little model right here, that has the effect of causing the front part of these vertebrae to misalign forward. Now, if you go back to that diagram, and it was just a schematic diagram, so it doesn't fully illustrate it, but Remember I said that those nerves, that superior sympathetic nerve chain goes along the front of the vertebra right here? Well, if and when these vertebrae are misaligned and locked forward, what they can do is they can slowly, and I do emphasize that word slowly, produce tension that's going to be stretching, agitating, or irritating these particular nerves. Think of it, if you would, as having a pebble in your shoe. You might be able to ignore it for a little bit, but if it's rubbing there long enough, eventually it's going to cause some very pronounced discomfort. And it's the same kind of thing that we're talking about here. When you've got that forward misalignment of these particular vertebrae, and if it's stretching and agitating these nerves over a period of time, it can then start to trigger, to fire in abnormal ways. And so one of the hallmarks, if this is the case, is where you might notice that moving your head in certain directions is what triggers your symptoms, or you're doing relatively well, but then you're just leaning down to pick something up, or you turned your head toward the left, or you looked up over your right shoulder. Certain kinds of head movements which momentarily spark that fight, flight, freeze reflex, and suddenly then your body is in this heightened sense of sympathetic agitation. And yes, if it's pronounced and if it's there long enough, it might be perpetual. But that's the sign that we're talking about, where you should be paying attention. Is it possible that my neck is actually playing a trick on my brain and it's producing these symptoms inside of me? It's if and where body movements are triggering your particular symptoms. That's the sign that we need to be looking in the neck. And what we find in the research is actually supporting this. It's somewhat preliminary research, but we are able to glean some broader conclusions based on this. We're finding that, by we, I'm not the researcher, by we, it's the we collective, shall we say, like that. And what we're finding is that when you have these mechanical problems with the alignment, the motion, the stability of your neck, that yes, indeed, there is a knock-on effect that affects the higher centers of the brain. In this particular research article, what they're looking at is they're actually looking at the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain that is involved with executive decision-making, logic, and the ability to override stimuli. In other words, we talk about the prefrontal cortex as being the human part of our brain, where we are not simply slaves to our desires, our impulses, our feelings. And what these researchers are finding is that when a person actually has a problem in the neck, that part of the brain don't fire the way that it's supposed to. Its activity is actually diminished. And as a consequence of that, it means that that garbage in influence is more likely to overpower us. And we can then start to experience lack of brain clarity, mood irregulation, anxiety, depression, angst, amongst other things. But what they also find, and this is the fascinating part, is that when you have not just twist and crack 'em of the spine, but when you have a deliberate and personalized approach to find out, okay, where in your body is the source of irritation coming from? And if we make a specific, a precise, a personalized correction of that, of the neck, of the spine, that what it does as a consequence of that is that you start to see the normalization of that prefrontal cortex. In other words, those systems that were slowly going offline, they slowly start to come back online. And as a result of that, a person then is starting to have greater clarity of thought, their memory improves, their sleep improves, and so many of these feelings, the depression, the anxiety, and again, there's many other contributing factors, but for many people, so much of that stuff, again, where the body is playing a trick on the brain, starts to just simply go away. So understanding then that it's very possible that these symptoms can be the consequence of an unresolved problem in the neck. This gives hope. This gives opportunity for people who are living with these kinds of things, not knowing where is it coming from. Again, most of the people who I see, they are healthy. They're just not well. And what do I mean by that? It means that They take good care of their body. They do a good job with their nutrition. They're doing the best that they can. They've got good mindfulness, meditation activities, practices, all of that sort of stuff. And yet something still feels like it's wrong. And so this is where I'm raising the possibility here that what we actually have is a problem in the neck, where the body is playing a trick on the brain and it's sending off the internal alarm signals. And what we need to do is not just treat the alarm, that is, treat the symptom. We need to identify what is the underlying cause that may be showing up in a way that a person has never previously thought of in their neck. So thanks for watching the video there. I hope that you found it informative, and I hope also that you found it valuable and somewhat entertaining at the same time, not too boring. And if that's the case, there are 4 things that we always ask you at this point here. Number 1 is please do like and subscribe to the channel. That way you get all kinds of other video contexts about that big idea, how that little problem right up at the base of your head can be affecting your health, your well-being, and can actually change and improve the quality of your life. Number 2 is if you've got friends or family members who you think would benefit from watching this, please do share this video with them. Number 3 is if you want more information, you can go to my personal, that is professional website, drjeffreyhanna.com, where I've got all kinds of other blog articles, videos just like this one here, and where you can reach out to me personally is if you have something going on, just so we can have a bit of a chat, or if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer that. And number 4 is if we've struck a chord with you in this particular video and you want help, you want to know how it is that we can take that next step to actually helping you, you can reach out to us at our practice. I'm a member of the team at Clear Chiropractic, and you can reach us at clearchirospokane.com, or you can call us direct at 509-315-8166. Thank you guys all again very much. I look forward to doing the next series of videos here with you, and I look forward to seeing all of the comments and the chats and all that sort of stuff. So this is Dr. Jeffrey Hanna at Clear Chiropractic Spokane. Get well, live well, stay well. So until next time, take care and bye-bye.